Hi everybody and welcome to UBS Trending. I'm Anthony Pastori. For every athlete or entertainer, there is a family member, a mom, a dad, a sister, brother, or a really good friend who drove them to rehearsal or practice. They attended all of their games or their gigs or the show that they did for their community theater. And from that, financial expectations become common. And it's not easy for many to say no to that inner circle of family and friends. So we're going to discuss some insights that we learned from athletes and entertainers who have had to navigate these, I would say, very choppy waters. And I'm sitting here today with my friend and colleague, Wale Ogunleye, head of the Athletes and Entertainers Client segment at UBS. Wale, this is a fantastic white paper called Family Ties. And obviously, as someone like yourself who's a former pro ball player, you probably have some experience with this inner circle phenomenon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, it's an amazing, topic for us to have. I think one that it's, you're treading on, choppy waters when you're talking about family and friends. And like you said, how can you say no to that uncle who bought you those first pair of cleats or the aunt that might have gotten you that guitar when you've made it big? And for our advisors, we want to make sure that they understand exactly who our clients are, the communities that they come from, and why it's important for them to plan so that they can support these family members and not go overboard. And we see this all the time where athletes, entertainers, going broke, filing for bankruptcy. I guarantee you, most of the time, it's being spent on their family and friends and not having a plan behind that spending.
That's incredible. And in this new white paper, so it's the second paper in your Psychology of Money series. I know you were on with me a couple months back to talk about the first edition. So the second edition here is called Family Ties. And you just touched on it a little bit, but give us a little bit more insight, because it really is just, it's not just about helping out the aunt or the uncle or the friend. It goes a lot deeper, and it's the psychology of the athlete or the entertainer themselves. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Really, one, it's about having good intentions, right? At the end of the day, these athletes are seen as heroes, right? On the field, on the stage. And they also want to now transition that behind the stage, behind the camera, become heroes for their families and friends. So these are good intentions where they want to make sure that they take care of any emergency that comes away of their family and friends. And that, again, is leading them into troubled waters. For our advisors, though, if we're not willing to have these conversations with our athlete and entertainers about how do we manage these expectations, how are you able to say no, or maybe not yet, which we'll talk about maybe a little bit later about my own story about how I did that. We're going to have a situation where the financial industry does not understand and does not know how to relate to this segment of our population, knowing that there's always going to be this inner circle of people who are pulling and tugging at the dollars that our clients make.
Right, because we've spoken about this before when we talk about athletes and entertainers. A lot of times it almost becomes, to the outside observer, an overnight success. Now, of course, there's years and years of non-paying jobs or games that you have to go to that you're not making a lot of money. But for outside people, wow, you're an overnight success. I had an actor friend who said she was a 10-year overnight success, which is really funny. But for those people who then all of a sudden they're making more money than they ever did or expected in their lives, you say in the white paper they should really only be responsible to that inner circle. So how do you determine who that inner circle is?
Well, it should be simple, but again, in the world that we live in, that it's not as traditional as before. But one, we tend to think about, your mom, your dad, your husband, your children. That's the inner circle, okay? Now, what tends to get troublesome is when you have young men and women that come from these economical systems where they're the only one to have made it out, the only one to have graduated from college, and they feel like they have the whole community on their backs. That's where we get in trouble, because that play cousin or that play brother is not really the person that right now we need to be focusing on. We need to be trying to focus on our own finances, find a key plan, and if we do take care of that inner circle, then double back and see if that plan allows for us to take care of the community.
Yeah, I think anybody who's watching this can relate to the idea of having a hard time saying no, especially to family and friends. I mean, people can barely say no to their moms when she invites them to dinner because they have other plans. Oh, mama, oh yeah. So, but with finances, it's a whole big thing. So your story, I'm sure you've been through this where you've had to say no or have difficult conversations or make a really hard choice. Share a little bit of that with us.
You know what's so crazy about with athletes, the problem, and even entertainers, the money that we make is broadcast for the world to see. So my sister's a doctor right now in North Carolina. I don't know how much she makes. I have to ask her that. But every athlete that you know, their salary is projected somewhere on the internet.
That's right. You can Google, you can get that.
Absolutely. So it's hard for me to say I don't have it. Internet says different.
That's right.
So for me, in my situation, which I was able to do, is I was able to tell my mom and dad, hey, listen, hold up. I know you saw this major contract that I just signed, but here's the reality of it. Uncle Sam's going to get 50% of that.
That's right.
Hands down.
Right off the bat.
Hands down. My agent fees, management fees, jock tax that we talked about in the white paper. Those kind of things drag on the amount of money that we're going to make. And I told my mom, I said, listen, I'm not going to say no, because I've always promised you I was going to be the one to buy you that first house. I was going to make sure to buy you a nice car. I just have to say for you, not yet. And in my case, they were really, really patient with me, and I appreciate that. But I saw a lot of my colleagues, I saw a lot of my friends that were in entertainment, that they felt like as soon as they got that first $1 million, they had to buy a house. As soon as they feel like they got that first $1 million, they had to buy their dad a car. Maybe 2 separate homes now. Parents are not together. Now you're buying your dad a house and your mom a house. That $1 million, at the end of the day, you spent more money than you really have, and now you're in debt. There were times where I was an undrafted free agent. I wind up giving a person who was drafted ahead of me a loan in my first year in the NFL.
Oh boy.
That means guys are blowing through money. Again, we practiced 24 hours a day. We were in a hotel. We were by ourselves. Who are we spending this money on? Our family and friends. That's where we've got to do a better job of just telling people, listen, hold up, slow down. And this is where our advisors come into play. Find ways to have these conversations, telling everybody to have patience with us. Let that principle build and grow, and then what we earn off our money, maybe we can see what we can do with everybody else.
Right. And you know what? It's really important. Like your boy, that story of having to give a loan to a colleague of yours, it's so impactful. You have to learn. It's very difficult to, like you said with your mom and dad, be patient. It's coming, but not right now. Like, not that you didn't want to buy the house or the car for your mom and dad. You want to give them everything that you feel they deserve, but yeah, wait a little bit. So there it is, right? That's the question. Now you've had the experience. For anybody out there watching who is in this situation, what's the advice you would give them? How do you have those financial conversations with your family who you want to support, but know right now is not the time?
I think I take it from, we've all been on planes before, and you hear the announcement, if there's a case of emergency, put the mask on yourself first before you help anyone else.
Right.
That's the same way athletes and entertainers should be dealing with their finances. Take care of yourself first. I know it sounds selfish right now, but you're thinking about it from a big perspective. And no may hurt right now, but yes is extremely expensive. And you have to make sure you have the money in place to fulfill those requirements by saying yes. So say no, but also have a plan that if you're going to say yes, that you're able to do that. Number 2, set clear boundaries on who and what you're going to give to. We talked about your inner circle. If that's who you're saying I'm going to give to, give, knowing that it's probably not going to come back. I've given money out to a ton of my friends and family members, not here to throw anybody under the bus.
Of course.
Majority of the time, that money
you're not seeing that again.
It's not coming back.
Right.
And no knock to that. But I knew going in, I'm willing to give this money to you, knowing in my mind that this is the last time I'm going to give you money, and that I'm probably not going to get this back. Have that same talk with my financial advisors, and we're able to withstand those type of giving.
Right.
Lastly, protect your assets. Make sure you're careful about what you're investing. I know a lot of athletes we get pulled here and there. Mom and dad want to open up a store or open up a gas station. Your barber wants you to help him with, open up a salon. You know what? Again, talk to your advisors about these things. Make sure you have the assets in place and a plan in place that's going to help you help yourself first. Then if you have extra and a plan, help the community.
Right. And it's a balancing act, right, Wale? So how do you then balance that, I want to take care of my loved ones, my family and friends, but I also need to take care of myself. Where's the balance come in?
Well, the balance comes in with one having to understand the big picture. And that's why we started these series of Psychology of Money. We want to make sure our advisors understand that money is related to the way we were raised, the communities that we were around, and the people that are depending on us. Okay, at the end of the day, you can't be living, you can't be a Pro Bowl football player or all-star singer, and your mom's living, in a shack, right? You got to understand that we've got to have those. We got to fix that immediately. But what we need to do is, like you said, is if you think about how hard it was to get to where you're at, it took time. Like you said earlier, I was an overnight success. I just wasn't sure what night it happened, right?
Right.
And that's how we need to think about our finances with ourselves and individual. And the same thing with our families. Tell them we've waited all this time. We've enjoyed me not being an amateur, not making any money. You've been here with the joys and the ups and the downs. We're in a great place right now. I'm almost there. I know you see what is said in the New York Times that I've just signed this multi-$100 million contract. Give me a second to let it build and grow, and that's how we're going to make it.
Great advice. Wale, thank you for your insights. Always good to have you here. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Great. Wale Ogunleye, head of our client, or I should say our Athletes and Entertainers client segment at UBS. And for more information on that segment, visit the website, ubs.com/athletes-entertainers. Lots of great content up there, including a link to this white paper that we're discussing here, Family Ties. And make sure to follow UBS on social media. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Plus, all of our past UBS Trending episodes are available on demand on our website and on the UBS YouTube channel. And as always, if you have any questions about your portfolio or anything that Wale and I spoke about today, make sure to consult with a financial advisor. Very, very important there. Until next time, I'm Anthony Pastore. We hope you have a great day, and remember to keep your eyes on what's trending. We'll see you soon.